Hey everyone, good morning. And we're going to talk today about metric prefixes and how to maybe help yourself remember those. This sentence that you see on my classroom wall, and if not, then you see it here on the screen, is one that may help you remember the first letter and the abbreviations of some of those prefixes. So this crazy sentence says, the great mighty King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, meeting nice Pope Francis. What in the world does that mean? Well, if you notice, the first letter of every word is underlined, and that's going to help you to remember these words. So let's look at the next page. All right. So we're going to recall those prefixes, and those prefixes that we use in the metric system, we use as multipliers. All the prefixes that are before the word by, so all of these represent prefixes that'll cause the base unit to grow, to be greater than 1. In other words, the letters give us prefixes that are larger than the base unit. For example, if we look at the word king, we take the base unit of meter, the measure of distance, and we add kilo in front of it. We know that 1 kilometer or kilometer is greater than 1 meter. So the prefix kilo increases the size of the base unit. Okay, so back to this page, base unit. Any of these letters put in front of the base unit will make it grow. And if you remember, we had 7 base units, but the ones we most often use are things like meter, second. Sometimes we use liter. Sometimes we use volts, hertz, and several different ones. But the base units that we're usually talking about are meter, liter, second, things like that. Okay, well, what about the ones that are after? Well, those are mostly lowercase letters. And the ones that follow the word by represent prefixes that cause the base unit to be less than 1 or to shrink. Let me scroll back up there. So we're talking about the words drinking, chocolate, milk, meeting nice Pope Francis. So this D, C, M, M, N, P, F, those are all prefixes that make, excuse me, that make the base unit smaller. So for example, a meter compared to a millimeter. If you were to take out a ruler and look, the millimeters are the tiny little lines about the size of your pencil lead. And in fact, if you're writing with a pencil or have a pencil in your backpack, take it out now and look at the side of the pen or the pencil, and you will see that it tells you how wide the point is. It'll tell you it's a 0.7 millimeter pencil or a 0.9, maybe 0.5, and often the same on your pens. Not always, but most often on lead pencils, because you have to know what size lead to replace. So those are measured in millimeters, and those, of course, are much tinier than a meter stick. So let's look at these prefixes now in order. The smaller prefixes, did I write them? Are they up here? Nope, further down. Okay, the larger prefixes would be the word tera, from the word the, giga, from the word great, mega, and those all mean a trillion. Tera means a trillion, giga means a billion, mega means a million. So if I say it is not 1 ton, but a megaton, we mean there's a million tons of something. If I say there's a terabyte of memory, then that means there's a trillion bytes, individual bytes of memory. And a byte, if you didn't know, contains 8 little characters of zeros and ones. So that would be a trillion combination of 8 zeros and ones you could store in that memory. Then the ones we hear about more often maybe are kilo. And then not so often used in America, but used very much in other countries, hecta and deca. Kilo meaning 1,000. If I'm talking about a kilometer, that's 1,000 times a meter. I'm talking about a hectometer. It's 100 times, or a hectogram is 100 grams. Deca is only 10. But in each case, we have multiplied it by a number that's bigger than 1. And some of you have heard this story before, but when I lived in Norway, overseas, in Europe, in Northern Europe, we used the metric system. So when I went to the store, if I wanted to buy a lot of cheese, for example, I would buy a kilogram of cheese. That's about 2.2 pounds of cheese. If I wanted to make a turkey sandwich, I might buy a hectogram of turkey and a hectogram of cheese to have equal amounts of turkey and cheese on a sandwich. So we use these often when I lived in Europe. Remember that the base means that there's no prefix, so gram or second or meter or liter, those are all the base of this type of prefix usage. And it just means we're multiplying it by itself. Well, actually multiplying it by 1. Okay, well then there's the small ones. Oh, I see a mistake here. The smaller ones are deci, centi, milli, from drinking chocolate milk. Deci means 1/10. So if I were making a recipe when I lived in Norway, I would use a deciliter to measure liquids into the recipe. If I was measuring someone's height, I might measure them in centimeters. So that's 100th of a meter. So you would tell I knew I was 165 centimeters tall when I lived in Norway, and I'm about 5'4". Okay, milli, we use that mostly for things that were tiny, like 1,000th. A milliliter would be a measurement. Maybe you went to the doctor and you had to get a vaccination. I'm going to get the flu vaccine soon. And the measurement of the shot might be 10 milliliters on the shot. Even though we live in America and use ounces, the medical profession always uses the metric system, SI units. So they would be measuring milliliters. And remember, I told you once before that a milliliter was the same thing as a centimeter cubed, cm to the 3rd power. So a milliliter is the same as a cubic centimeter. And that allows them to, on the injection that they would give you at the doctor, it says how many cc's, cubic centimeters, are in a shot. So again, a deci means 1/10, centi means 100th, and milli means 1,000th. So we're taking the base unit and we're putting a prefix in front of it to divide it by some factor of 10. Even smaller, we have many medicines that are so strong that they're only in micrograms. We have the sizes of some particles, as the coronavirus particle that is measured in nanometers, 1/1000th of a meter in size. And at times we talk about things in picometers and even femtometers. Picometers is 1/1,000,000th, femtometers would be a quadrillionth. One with 4 groups of 3 zeros behind it. Picometers, we'll talk about those when we're measuring the size of atoms, how wide the nucleus is on an atom. So let's look at that sentence again. Go back to where we started. The highlighted letters are going to be those abbreviations. There are a couple of exceptions, and we'll talk about those. But if you move down the left of the sentence, from right to left, then the numbers get larger. A terabyte is greater than a gigabyte, is greater than a megabyte. A kilogram is greater than a hectogram, is greater than a decagram. So again, we're looking at those letters. If we're going to the right, in the sentence past the word by, then we're going to see these units: deci, centi, milli, like decimeter, centimeter, millimeter, as we just talked about on a ruler. Micrometer, nanometer, picometer, femtometer. So a couple of things I want you to notice here. There's a deci here and a deca here. So this one, when it is used, and I'm going to actually change it right here to a lowercase, and this a lowercase m, that deci is used with a small d, and deca is often written with a capital D or a D and a C to show that we're talking about a deca, not a deci. The other thing I want you to notice is that two words with M are back to back here: millimeter and micrometer. And we will look up, or right on the board, the term for micrometer. We use a Greek letter in the alphabet there. And I did forget to put that in the slide, so I will show you that on the board. Or you can look it up, what a micrometer looks like. But I'll draw it here on the side. It's a little, I don't know if I have a drawing tool. Sorry, not very good with this particular program. Nope, I'll have to figure out how to do that. But it looks like this. It looks kind of like a U with a tail on it, kind of like that. Okay, so here's our sentence again. Highlighting those letters: the, tera, G, giga, M, mega, K, kilo, H, hecta, big D, deca. You see them written down here and what their values are. By is our base unit. So the great mighty King Henry died by drinking. D for deci, C for centi, M for milli, M for micro, and I put this one in italics to show you that it was a different level, N for nano, P for pico, F for femto. Okay, I think we're going to end there. I'm not going to show you how to use these on the numbers. This was just to give you an idea of which direction gets larger, which direction gets smaller, and to teach you the individual names of the prefixes. Okay, talk to you soon.